Hi, my name is Shelby Curry, and this is my qualitative analysis of movement, and the movement I chose to do is the deadlift. The deadlift is a very complex movement. It is a compound lift, and with compound lifts, you are going to be working multiple body parts and muscle groups simultaneously. An example of a non-compound movement would be a bicep curl, where you're working primarily your biceps with the stabilizing muscles. As we move forward, I have a video demonstration of the movement, and you'll notice that there's 4 different phases during the deadlift. You'll have your lift off, which your lift off will be initiated by knee flexion and knee extension and hip extension. And as you move through that phase, you'll come into the pull through phase, which during this phase you are going to see basically a deceleration of knee extension, as in the end you'll want everything extending, coming to an full extension at once. But so you'll see a deceleration of knee extension, and your hips will become the primary movers during the pull through phase. And after the pull through phase, once you get to the top of the movement, it will be the lockout phase. And this is the phase where you'll see the knees, hips, and back coming fully extended at the same time. And this is what you want to have happen. You don't want, to fully extend your knees and cause a jerking motion. You don't want to extend your back first, and you don't want to extend your hips first. So it needs to be a smooth motion all the way through. We'll watch this video, and I'll try to point out during each phase the different some of the different phases and what the body's doing during each phase. So as you can see, I've got the 4 different phases being pointed out. During the lift-off phase, notice that the knees extend and then the hips extend. But once you get to about here, your hips are going to extend more. And notice during this whole time how straight my back is as I'm doing the motion. And then once I get to here, there is a bit of extension in my back. Okay. The deadlift is a movement that occurs in the sagittal plane. And it occurs in the sagittal plane because it is a front to back movement. So the the movement of the deadlift keeps it in the sagittal plane. However, the stability muscles or the stability movements occur in all 3 planes, just with the different areas of the body that are stabilizing the deadlift. And as you'll notice, I wrote down, or I added the involved joints and their range of motion during this lift. With knee flexion, as you can see in the start, when my knees are fully flexed, they are flexed to about 120 to 150 degrees. But when they're fully extended, they're extended about 180 degrees. They are basically locked out. There's very little range of motion left in my knees. Hip flexion is the same thing. In the beginning, there's about 100 to 125 degrees of flexion happening at that point. And then when they're fully extended, they're extended to 180 degrees. Again, they are locked out, so there's not much room for movement. And then the elbows, I kind of pointed this out in the beginning, but the elbows are going to be extended the whole time. They are going to remain straight. There's an isometric hold or contraction on these. So they're going to remain at the 180 degrees of extension the entire time for the whole lift, up and down phase. The deadlift, as I noted, is a compound lift and involves many different muscles and muscle groups, but the primary muscles of the deadlift is the erector spinae, the gluteus maximus, the quads, hamstrings, and abductors. Now those are the primary muscles that are moving and you're targeting as a lift. So you don't do a deadlift in hopes to build muscle size in your arms. No, the primary movers are where you're targeting when you're using it as a lift. The stabilizing muscles are the traps, the rhomboid, the rhomboids, flexors, extensors, serratus anterior, rector abdominis, gluteus medius and minimus, soleus, and gastrocnemius. Now those muscles, they're not really being flexed or extended. They're just being held the entire time. We're kind of stabilizing the movement. Now, during each phase, the lift phase and the down phase, the muscles working are going to be the same muscles, but they're going to be in a different type of contraction each time. The wrists and hands, they are going to be actually held in flexion the entire time because that is what's holding the bar. And it's an isometric contraction, but you have your flexor carpi radialis, which is this muscle right here. And then you have your flexor carpi ulnaris, which is this outside muscle. You have your palmaris longus, which is right here, right next to your flexor carpi radialis. You have your flexor digitorum profundus, which is I had it earlier. Anyways, moving on. You have your flexor digitorum superficialis, which is this muscle right here. And those, like I said, they are in the up and down phase. They're going to be in an isometric hold. The trunk, which is going to be your back muscles, you have your erector spinae, which is these three muscles, and they are going to be in an isometric contraction as well, but they are going to be held in extension. And then you have your quadratus lumborum down here. The hips, the muscles working in your hip's going to be in extension during the lift phase, concentric contraction. And the muscles working during this are going to be your gluteus maximus and the hamstring group. And then your knee is going to be in extension and it's going to be a concentric contraction. And the muscle working with that joint is going to be your quadricep muscle group. In the down phase, again, like I said, the wrists and hands are going to be in flexion from holding the bar, and they're going to be in an isometric hold. They're going to be holding that bar the whole time. The trunk, again, it's the same muscles, and they're going to be in maintenance, so they're going to be holding that extension. So it's an isometric contraction. The lowering phase, though, the hip is no longer going to be in extension. It's going to be in flexion. So it'll be an eccentric contraction, and it's still the same muscles, the gluteus maximus and the hamstrings working. And then your knee, it's going to be the same muscle, your quadriceps, but it is going to be in flexion as well. So it'll be another eccentric contraction. So that is my qualitative analysis of a deadlift. I hope you all enjoyed and learned a little bit about the deadlift.